Namaste. Welcome back to my journey through the Tarot de Marseille. And today's topic is the Empress card, L'Impératrice. And so we will once again look at several cards across a variety of decks and look at some of the details, the nuances, and discuss possible meanings. It's just amazing the variety of color and symbol that has shifted from card to card through the decades, through the centuries even of these particular cards. And I want to thank Dee. I finally downloaded David's Tarot de Marseille book on Lulu yesterday and started reading through some pages, and what an absolute pleasure to read. So yeah. Oh, everything is a little discombobulated this weekend, and I have some personal issues that I am navigating, so I've had to switch things around. Yeah, it's been a bit of an odd day. I've had to shift schedules. So here I am, because I didn't not want to do this weekend, and hopefully next Saturday I'll be back on schedule. But I thank you all for your flexibility. So welcome. And very interesting. So in David's book, J.M. David, the deck that is of primary focus is the Noble, which is the small deck that I have here. And so really interesting to focus more on this deck than other versions of the Tarot de Marseille that I have been more focused on. So it's been good. Anyway, briefly. If you are just hopping in, I have already been through the minors and the court cards, and this is the third section of this series where we're going through individual cards. And so yeah, so let's look at colors and shield and body language. Let's look at some of the little nuances in the cards, the details that are below, to the right, to the left, and all of that. Okay. And your contribution to the conversation, whether it is now in the live chat or whether you are coming back later and able to contribute in the replay, it's wonderful to carry on these discussions. And if you are referring to other decks, please make sure you give us some details so you know what decks you're talking about, especially if we can go back and look at those at a later time. So the decks that are on the table right now, this is Flournoy's Dodal and Noble. This is the Gassman Tarot. And this one here is Fine della Torre. And this is the oldest deck that is on the table that I have. One of the things that seems not to have changed is the forward-facing body language of the Empress. And there are two cards in the Tarot de Marseille, two, I believe, Justice and this card, that are forward-facing. And I think, especially when we're working with the Tarot de Marseille, this plays such an important part in reading. Body language, and then, of course, the direction of the gaze. And if you look at the Noble Tarot, the face is also forward-facing. And I was going through my decks just now and just kind of checking in. This is the Yaroski deck based on Conver. The eyes are not straightforward, but the face is a lot more forward-facing than the others. So I think I couldn't find another one that had eyes forward and body language forward. other than the Noble. So I'll have to go through more of my decks and just check that out. This, of course, speaks volumes, and there is a confidence and a strength and a power in that particular gesture. There's also a tremendous ease in the posture of the Empress. There's a confident nature, and I would associate this posture with, let's say, a Queen of Wands in the Rider-Waite-Smith. Just, I know who I am, and I can sit however I want to sit. And there's suggestions for other reasons for this particular posture, but it's a confident posture. It's one that displays also perhaps a sense of masculinity, but that also has been said to be shown in different ways as well too, so that the Empress carries both an abundance of divine feminine qualities, which would be her primary energy, as well as several masculine qualities that show us indeed how balanced she is. Oh, you don't have any, D? Okay. Yeah, and please let us know if you have another deck that has eyes forward facing other than the Noble. I'm just looking at the Soprofino here. It almost looks like in the Soprofino, she's looking at us with one eye, with her right eye. What, if her head is turned, is she gazing at? And she would be gazing at many things. And one of the things that really caught my attention, I'm not sure which court card it was in. I think it was a discussion between the Bateleur and the La Papesse. And David was discussing the gaze and the intention or the reason behind the gaze. And now I'm thinking, okay, the Empress, the reason for the gaze would be different. So I think in all of these cases, the gaze comes from a different place. And we talked about in the Bateleur episode about how he may intentionally, or they may intentionally gaze in one direction to draw your focus there so that the other hand could do what it needed to do without you noticing. Whereas the Papesse, and this is something you might see in, you may recognize this gaze. It's the eyes are wide open, but the person isn't present. The person is very much with spirit. And it's not necessary to have your eyes closed to be in another space. And I hadn't necessarily thought about that in terms of the tarot, but it's really interesting. I remember one time sitting in a small, I didn't know what you'd call it. This was a Krishna gathering place. This was in a small town in India. And we had been served food. We're all sitting on the floor, and the guru was on a small chair. And you could tell he wasn't present. You could tell that he was off somewhere. But his eyes, I never forget that. He was gone for a long time. But he was there physically, and his eyes were open. And it's different. It's so interesting to observe. A meditative gaze, lost in spirit. And I'm sure you've seen that in children in other places as well, too. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. D says, the Empress is wealthy and has made a good marriage. She represents her powerful social position. And in a way, that sounds very Victorian. It sounds like something that has been carried through the ages and could even be brought forward into contemporary society to some degree, depending on the culture, the community in which you live. And with her abundance of fabric, there's a luxuriousness to this card. And I've always seen this card as that sense of, to have that sense of abundance and luxury, and perhaps to be grateful for all that we have. Yes, in the UK, you still have a powerful royal family. Yeah. I have to say that I am intrigued with, I'm always looking in what's going on in the base of the card. And I think for the most part, we have been quite careful in paying attention to the upper part of the card as well as the lower part and the middle part of the card. But in the Empress, like the Bateleur, unlike La Papesse, we may be outside. And I was going to say we definitely are outside, but some of them I'm not so sure. Because you do get a sense of earthiness, and that she represents that richness, that abundance of all. She has that sense. She is all. She is the wealth of the earth. She is the energy of the earth, and she is at home and comfortable on the land, and she is the land. And I really love sitting with Emperor Empress energy in this way. I don't know how many of you have the new deck by Anatolian, Tarot of Echoes. And the way that the Emperor is portrayed in that card is the Emperor is a mountain, and the Emperor's eyes and face just sort of appear through the earth. And where I'm going with this is that the Empress is the land. The Empress is the earth. The Empress is all. The Empress is all that is manifest. And it's only through her that the Emperor can find his prestige, his strength, his power. It's such an interesting contemplation. And for sure in the Tarot de Marseille, you get hints of that. Now, if we go to, I want to look at the positioning of the wands, the scepters, because Jodorowsky says something quite interesting. So note that the Empress, the wand is in the left hand. The scepter is in the left hand. And the shield is in the right hand. I believe David discusses this as well, too. What does that tell you? There is something of either a conscious effort of using the left hand, or artistically saying something by putting the scepter in the left hand. This is the receptive side. So this says she leads with her receptive side. She leads with her feminine side. Whereas the shield is in the right side. Whether this shield is hers or it has been passed down, I just have having all these ideas, like it's been passed down. I was going to say father, but I had this crazy idea of like okay, I'm thinking of the Arthurian legends, and I'm thinking of a lover. She has a lover who's a knight, and it's a gift from a knight. Like why would she actually need a shield other than symbolically? But I just had this idea of her receiving it as a gift from a lover. Anyway, just crazy thought that just came through this mind of mine. Or from somewhere else. I don't know. I'm just thinking of Guinevere and yeah, some other loves. Wood block reversal of the image. A wood block reversal of the image. Oh, okay. I don't know. It appeals to me. It appeals to me that it is in her left hand. And I wanted to make a comment about the shield and what is the function of the shield here. And the way that the shield is held, or in most of the cards, her hand is, her right hand is right around the shield, and you can see it. In the Dodal, I mean, are these her fingers here? You can see the hand clearly here, but it's odd, like the proportion, the size, or the disproportion of the hands is particularly odd. Like the right hand is significantly larger than the left hand in the Noble. And certainly, for sure, it's a little bit further forward in the picture than the left hand, but there's something quite odd with the size of the hands. And then in this older picture, of course, she's not holding a shield, she's resting the scepter, and then has an orb of some sort in the other hand. But let's go back to this scepter. Did the emperor give her the shield as a favor after a jest? Yeah, I was going with lover. It seemed like more fun, but perhaps. But then she would have to explain where she got the shield. So of course she got it from the emperor. Otherwise she would be beheaded or something. It also appeals to me as well too that it may have come from a father, from just family lineage. We can talk about the eagle as well too in a moment, but let's go back to the scepter. The way the scepter is positioned and where it is rested, it makes me laugh. I think of the months I spent, the years, the last time 1 year with the Thoth Tarot. Actually more, because then I did another thing with the Thoth Journey Tarot, another 6 months. All of the sexual innuendos and what they represent. So for sure, the body language is comfortable. She's comfortable with her sexuality. Her legs are apart. And yes, we've all heard these kind of discussions before. But it makes me laugh. Jodorowsky writes that the base of the scepter it's intentionally positioned at her sexual parts. And I rewatched that film D that was shared in the Facebook group, and there is a lot of discussion, intention, focus on sexual parts. And the card that came to mind was the Devil. And if you draw an X, oh, I love it when the birds do this. They come right up to the window and they just kind of flit, flit, flit and say, hello, how are you, Sadhana? That the male genitalia is exactly at the center of the X if you draw an X on this card. And so whether we're talking about the Tarot de Marseille or whether we are doing a Thoth deep dive, there seems to be a tremendous focus on sexual parts. And you bring into that what you will. But I think if we look at it basic, in a very elemental, basic sort of way, it points to the cup. It points to the womb. And she likely is with child. Her belly is slightly rounded. And so the scepter, and you can think about this. What does the scepter represent? Why is the scepter pointing to the womb? The base of the scepter, does it have a power? Well, in this stick, there's a little leaf that has been added here. A little tiny leaf that is connected and pointed to the womb. I noticed in the Gassman, there's also a little something there, and I don't know what that is, just below the baby finger of the left hand. And I don't necessarily see that in any of the other decks that I have on the table at this time. And so I would say that in some cases it's pointed at the womb, and in some cases it's pointed a little bit lower. But either way, it's pointed at her genitalia or her womb. So we're looking at feminine energy. Jodorowsky goes another step further and says that the crescent, and I'm not sure what crescent he is talking about because there's a few crescent shapes on this card. And one thing that I've been staring at, looking for my pointer, I don't know where my pointer is this little bit of fabric that shows here, this little bit of green. I'm just looking at other cards on my table as well, too. And he says that the crescent links her to the papes. So there's some connection here. I know. How else would she hold it? Well, the only other way she would hold it is if she had a stand to put the base in. But that would be really, really awkward. So, go back to some of those exercises, the Enriquez type exercises, and where you sit yourself in the picture and you imagine holding and sitting in the way that she is sitting. Imagine what you may be looking at. How long can you hold that posture? What does it feel like? All these kind of things. I think he really gave us some great exercises for imagining the power of the position. When we look at other parts of the clothing, there are quite a few differences, actually. So I'm not sure why we have this. So we still have a round neck here, but we have some sort of a stock, a bib here. We don't actually see the neck in the Dodao. We do see her neck here, and we see her neck here. We see her neck. And the discussion has to do with the thickness of her neck and a hint of an Adam's apple. And that is one of the symbols that seems to say that she's powerful, that she is in her masculinity, or that she is balanced in both her masculine and her feminine. So if you've read something else about that, let me know. The pyramid, we don't see in the Noble, and that's another little bit on the clothing that seems to stir conversation as a door, a window to something. Yeah. Now look here. This blue bit here, and here it's gold. Here it's gold. It's absent here. This is the Rivso Tarot. It's gold here. And I don't actually see it. So this is described as a font. I don't see it in this card. I mean, it looks like we only see the a part of it. So why would she have a font, a cup on her left side? And again, this could point to her connection to the divinity of the papes, generally to her femininity, that indeed she does have a cup on her left side. I mean, there's quite a bit we could read into this. Does she have the power to bless, to heal? In today's class, I teach a class called Tarot Foundations 2, and we were talking about the cards of summer solstice. And the first cards of Cancer season, Two of Cups. Two of Cups. And the decan of Two of Cups is Empress. And the ruler of Cancer is the moon, therefore the High Priestess card. And so at the beginning of Cancer season, we have a sign that is ruled by the moon, High Priestess. We have a decan of Empress, Venus. And then the court card is the Queen of Cups. We have all this powerful feminine energy at solstice. And I'm just looking at this cup here and thinking, okay, this connects her to the Queen of Cups. This connects her to the papes. This is a way to show the water element, that this is not just a card of social. How did you put it, Dee? I would like how you expressed her power, her social position. Yeah, any of those. So, it likely, if it's got anything in it, it's going to spill. It doesn't make sense that there's a cup sitting right there on the throne. And then D, it's very well. Yeah, right? It could be a misrepresentation. And I think in a lot of these cards, we do see misrepresentations. We see extra fingers. We question the folds in the fabric and whether they are something other than fabric. And going back and looking at the papes and the different, I've been reviewing some of these cards and reading more of the descriptions in the books. And the notion that the book isn't actually a book. we're seeing what we want to see. And then what do you do with that? Especially, and I find when you do a reading and you notice something and you speak to something, and then you come back to that same card, that same deck, and do another reading, and you think, oh, no, I was wrong. That's not what that is. I think it's really important to honor that we are all evolving readers and that symbols come through as they need to come through, and that we don't need to be criticizing our past interpretations and saying, oh, gosh, why did I say that? It's not that, it's this. And I want to caution everyone to be more loose in the way that you vocally interpret cards in a reading. Rather than saying, this means this, you could say something to the effect of, the scepter in her left hand suggests that she leads from her receptive side. Because we're all learning and growing and seeing new things. And while there are some amazing authorities on the tarot out there, it's really important that we each absorb and allow the information that we gather to be meaningful in a way that's personally meaningful. Okay. The chair, the throne. So going back to can we talk about a little about the colors of the Marseille? So in the Dodal, no, not the Dodal, in the Noble, we have the no color. We have skin color, which is slightly pink, red, gold, green, blue, and yellow, and black. And the wings are of a skin color. Not the wings. Oh my God, they look like wings, don't they? They do. They look like wings. But perhaps this is simply a piece of satin. Would they have satin? A piece of satin, a piece of silk that is draped over the chair. And why do I say satin or silk? Because it would take on the shape of the chair. But I find it fascinating, especially the way that in the Rivso you can see these lines in the fabric, the way that it hints to a pair of wings. It hints to wings, and that, so then my mind goes, all right, Sadhana, you know that emperors and empresses, royalty are descended from the gods, and that's what is or was believed. And isn't that interesting to have a hint of celestialness in the card? Yeah. So what I feel when I read a lot of the things that he points to is that authoritarian sort of what I was saying earlier about being careful how you describe the cards, that the blue suggests this, while the red suggests this, rather than saying it is this and it is that. And I find that Jodorowsky does a lot of, he's very specific and very detailed about what certain things mean in the card, and that's what it means, rather than saying it could suggest this. Yes, yes. He speculates, but presents it as fact. And the truth is, none of this is fact. It's all interpretation. And you can go back to some amazing, there's videos and books and historical documentaries that have an abundance of information, that lots of research, but so little was written down at the time. We really are speculating and bringing together historical information and other resources, and enjoy the mystery, because it is all a big mystery and so much fun. Color seems to be pretty common across the cards. The back of the chair, other than the noble, is blue, and the undergarment is blue. We have quite a bit of blue, skewing to the receptive side. And D, we should do that. We should do a field trip back to the 15th century. Yes, we will walk together through the stones and go. Wouldn't that be amazing? Somehow to safely do that. And I think for the most part, it's safe to say that blue is receptive. Blue is the water. Blue is the feminine. And yet this figure wears red. And in all of these cards, though the red is in different places, it exemplifies again her power and her strength. And the choice of green also emphasizes or suggests her connection to the earth. And so if we don't see the earth in the I love the pink chair. And you will only go back if you can take painkillers and antibiotics. Yeah. It's the pink chair is really something. What was I saying? I was saying something else. Oh yeah, so the green speaks to her her Gaian energy, right? Her earthliness, and the metaphorical qualities of her wealth and her abundance and the luxuriousness that is portrayed in this card. And we are something that's quite different in this than an iteration of the tarot such as the Waite Smith, is that we see so very little of the background. And so there is more that is left to the imagination. And you may, I don't know, maybe you're working with this deck. I'm really growing. I mean, there's so many things I love about this deck, and I've been looking at faces in preparation for the chat that I'm doing in the next hour, and the faces in this deck are just awful. They almost look like they're masks rather than the actual face. But because the bottom here is colored blue, I just thought maybe that in a moment in a reading, you might see her near the water. Yeah. Shall we go back to the Eagle, the eagle. Royal symbol. And yet, this particular eagle looks as though I almost see more of an incinerated phoenix in many of the cards. And I was reading in one of the books about how, so she is 3, right? She is 3, and 3 is not only about growth, but 3 is also, it's a transformative number. And I'm staring at this eagle and I'm thinking, you're not an eagle. You are a burnt phoenix. And it might just be the way that an eagle was etched into the wood. And then I'm looking at the background of the shield, and many of them is this burning sun color. And I thought, I like that. I like that. I like her as a mentor, as a symbol of great strength and transformation. And we have a lot of symbols of transformation and death in the tarot. And what if the symbol on this shield, if you saw it like that and you connected it to another symbol of transformation? Another comment. Definitely not in the Soprafino. She looks almost like a man in the Soprafino. You know what? I'm thinking about this masculine neck notion. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that she's wearing a stock because she's not allowed to show her skin. And that is not actually her neck and her Adam's apple that we're looking at. We are looking at a stock, a white stock. And then artistically, some authors decided to remove that and change that. Or some sort of, not necessarily a stock that was a masculine garment, but some sort of fabric that was held there. The wing position on her shield is one of protection, displayed wings. Well, that it's that symbol of, this, it's this gesture. So the eagle is, that makes sense. Yeah. And in a way, the wings of the eagle they mirror the wings of the chair. So look at the wings of the chair, the wings of the chair, the wings of the eagle. So the chair also is a protective, it protects her back. Have you ever been to Bali or other places in Indonesia? I purchased, well, they're from there. I have been there, but I purchased a couple of stone statues for the garden. And I have and it's different if you see these made in India, but the ones from Bali have a scary protective figure on the back of the stone statue to protect the deity. Like on the back of my Ganesha, there's some scary looking faces, which I have never ever noticed in India. So there's this, she's got protection on the front and protection on the back. And that kind of appeals to me. Yeah. Shall we have a look at the mashup deck just before I close? Because I didn't pull her out. I'm talking about the Tarot de Marseille. Now she is reversed in this deck. And so this is what Dee was talking about. So maybe maybe it is a woodcut reversal. And so what appeals to your sense of artistic intention? Would an empress have the scepter in her right hand or her left hand? This is, it's so fascinating. I pulled out the Crowley card because I was looking at the eagles and the Crowley card, the white eagle, the red eagle, and all that kind of stuff. In the Crowley card, the scepter's in the right hand, but the scepter is a lotus. There is one other card I wanted to look at. Sorry, I didn't have time to pull out every single card in my deck. Okay. Now, I know this is not a Tarot de Marseille, and I know this was created relatively recently, but Donofrio also put the shield in the right hand and the scepter in the left hand. And she looks like she has wings. So that's kind of fun. Ooh, what about my naughty Empress deck? I don't know. I haven't had that out for a little while. I kind of put it away. It was distracting me. Okay, my friends, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to be right back on and share with you a whole bunch of decks. And some of them are Tarot de Marseille and some of them are not. I will see you very soon. Take good care of yourselves. Namaste. And I'll be back next week with the Emperor. Thanks, Dee.